The Last Leaf on the Tree, a story of grace, loss, and late life realization. In a quiet village just outside of Bath, England, lived a man named Edward Barnes, 84 years old, thin-framed with silvery hair and a walking stick carved by his late brother. For most people, Edward was simply the old man at the corner house, known for sitting near the garden gate every evening with a cup of tea in hand. But inside Edward's heart lived decades of stories, emotions, regrets, and realizations that most never got to hear. Today, you'll hear one of those stories, a story about how old age is not the end, but a quiet mirror that finally shows you who you really are. 1. The Lonely Autumn. Edward had been a school teacher for 42 years. Widowed at 68, his children were far, one in California, one in Leeds, each busy in their own lives. He didn't complain. He never had, but something shifted the autumn he turned 8. He began waking up at 3 a.m. Not from pain, but from thoughts. He would sit up, stare at the wall, and ask himself, why do I feel like I'm disappearing? One day, while walking slowly to the village bakery, he noticed something small but strange. An old oak tree in the park had lost all its leaves, except for one. One last leaf hanging on, refusing to fall. That one leaf felt familiar. He whispered to himself, that's me, still holding on. Part 2, memories return with the wind. As weeks passed, Edward started revisiting his past, not in sadness, but with curious honesty. He remembered the argument he had with his son when the boy left for university, the way he ignored his wife's silent cries for emotional closeness, the moments he wanted to say, I'm proud of you, but didn't, and the dreams he never chased, like writing a book or learning the piano. In his own words, old age doesn't make you forget life. It makes you remember it deeply, sometimes painfully. He didn't feel angry, just unfinished. Part 3, a young stranger changes everything. One chilly afternoon, a teenage girl named Grace, visiting her grandmother from London, stopped outside Edward's gate. She said cheerfully, you look wise. May I ask you one thing? Surprised, Edward smiled. Go on then. She asked, what's the one thing you wish you knew when you were my age? Edward paused. For a moment, he wanted to say, don't grow old. But instead, he replied softly, I wish I knew that silence isn't always strength, and that expressing love is not weakness. That conversation lit something inside him. The next day, he began writing letters, notes, thoughts. Not for anyone else, just to release the weight he'd carried for decades. Part 4, The Letters of Wisdom. By winter, Edward had filled 7 notebooks, each one titled, Regrets I'm Letting Go, Lessons My Loneliness Taught Me, Things I Should Have Said, Moments I Took for Granted, What I Wish I'd Asked. My parents, the kindness I forgot to show, how I finally found myself. At 83, he realized aging wasn't the end of his story. It was the most honest chapter. He mailed the notebooks to his children, not expecting replies. But months later, his daughter flew from California. With tears in her eyes, she said, Dad, I finally understand you. They sat for hours, not to solve anything, just to connect, to forgive, to feel.
If you are still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you are here. And if you have not subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your supports helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you.
Part 5, The Last Leaf Falls. The next autumn, Edward sat by the same tree in the park. This time there were no leaves. No last leaf holding on. But he smiled. He didn't feel like the last leaf anymore. He had become the root, the part that no one sees, but that quietly nourishes those who come after. Before passing away peacefully the next spring, Edward left one final message for his grandchildren. Life isn't about how long you stay standing. It's about how much light you leave behind for others to follow. To those listening, if you're past 70, 75, or even 90, remember, your story isn't over. You still carry seeds of wisdom that the world needs. You still hold light that someone younger is waiting to see. Don't let silence be your last chapter. Speak, share, love deeply, because sometimes the oldest branches hold the sweetest fruit. Optional message for the end, 1 minute. If the story touched you, share it with someone who may need it. And remember, old age is not a fading light. It's the soft glow of a full life finally being understood. At 77, Margaret Dawson's house had become quieter than ever before, once filled with the laughter of children, the clinking of dishes, and the rustle of her late husband's newspaper. Now it echoed only with the sound of the clock ticking. In the hallway, she often sat by the window, looking out at the empty garden in Yorkshire. The flowers still bloomed, but the color in her heart had faded. One winter morning, as the fog curled outside the panes, she whispered to herself, "Is this all that's left of life? Silence and memory." But that was the morning everything changed. Part 1. The visit that stirred the soul. Her daughter Claire had asked her to keep her 9-year-old granddaughter, Lily, for 2 weeks while she traveled to a conference in Scotland. Margaret agreed. Though she wasn't sure how to handle a child anymore, Lily arrived with a suitcase full of crayons. Curiosity and the energy of spring at the house suddenly was alive again, and with it, so was Margaret. That first evening, Lily asked, "Granny, why are you always so quiet?" Margaret smiled, because sometimes silence feels safer than speaking. Lily replied with innocent truth, "But how would I know your stories if you stay quiet?" That night, Margaret cried silently, not out of sadness, but because she realized she had locked away her stories for far too long. Part 2, Unfolding the Past. Over tea and toast, Lily began asking questions. "Granny, did you have a best friend when you were little? Did Grandpa make you laugh? What was your favorite dress? Did you ever feel lonely?" And slowly, Margaret began to speak. She talked about her wartime childhood, rationed sweets, the dances in the village hall, and the way her heart raced when she first saw George, her husband of 49 years. She shared the miscarriage no one knew about, the depression she hid in her 60s, and the regret of never reconciling with her estranged brother. Lily listened wide-eyed, and Margaret realized, I'm not done living. I'm still becoming.
If you are still watching this video and finding these valuable insights, please comment number 5 below to let me know you are here. And if you have not subscribed yet, I remanded you subscribed and turn on the bell so you miss any video. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you.
Part 3. A letter from the past. One afternoon, Lily found an old box in the attic. Inside were letters, yellowed, fragile, written by Margaret to her younger self, never sent. Never read again. One letter read, "Dear 35-year-old me, please don't lose yourself in doing for others. You matter too. Your feelings matter." And another, "To my future self, I hope you find peace, even if no one else gives it to you." Margaret hadn't read those letters in decades, but now she was no longer afraid to feel them. Part 4. The Tea Party of Forgotten Dreams. Inspired by Lily's energy, Margaret decided to do something bold. She invited 4 of her old friends, women she hadn't seen in over 10 years. Each one had a story: widowhood, cancer survival, estranged. Children, loneliness. They drank tea, they laughed, they wept, and they spoke truths they had hidden for years. One said, "I thought I was the only one who felt invisible after 75. Another said, "I didn't know I could still feel joy this late in life." That afternoon, Margaret felt something stir inside her. Not youth, not nostalgia, but purpose. Part 5, Leaving Echoes Behind. The 2 weeks with Lily ended, but Margaret had changed. She began volunteering at the local library to read stories to children. She wrote daily reflections in a journal she called Echoes I Want to Leave. She reconciled with her brother, now 82, after 30 years of silence. She forgave her younger self. And most importantly, she allowed herself to feel worthy again. At 78, Margaret wasn't afraid of the hallway echoes anymore, because now those echoes weren't just emptiness. They were reminders of a full-lived and evolving life. To those who think life becomes smaller with age, let Margaret remind you, you are not your aches, you are not your regrets. You are not too old to begin again. You are a living archive, a soul still flowering, and every hallway echo is a chance to whisper your story before it's too late.
If you are still watching this video and finding these valuable insights, please comment number 5 below to let me know you are here. And if you have not subscribed, yet I remanded you subscribed and turn on the bell so you miss any video. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you.